Good morning and happy Veterans Day and happy Remembrance Day if you're Canadian. I thought it would be pertinent to start with a quick video rendition of one of the most famous war poems, I think, of all time, written by a Canadian medical man and also soldier during World War I. And I actually learned on the weekend it was written about a friend of his. That's what the inspiration was. So let's take it over to Leonard Cohen and take some time today to thank all the people that fought, and a lot of them died, for your freedom that you enjoy, and never take it for granted. So here we go. So make sure you take some time today to remember those who've paid the ultimate sacrifice for your. Sorry, that's YouTube for you. And if you're curious about Mr. McRae, he's a famous Canadian. You can look him up online. Pretty interesting cat, but also he himself died during World War I at the end, but was a medical man and a military man. Anyway, here we go.
Tony, I'm the general manager of Fred Bean's Kia in Langhorne. I just wanted to take a minute to talk about Larry Feldman, Career Changers USA. Larry and I have been working together for about the last 12 years now, and anything I've ever needed as far as recruiting, training, Larry has been right there. Larry's got me salespeople, he's got me managers, he's got me technicians even through the toughest times in the industry. And he is just the kind of guy who's going to tell you exactly what's on his mind. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. But Larry also has the expertise to back it up. When he was in the dealership world, he was a top performer. And that's really important to my staff, especially as it pertains to training. A lot of people can come in and teach out of a textbook, but Larry has real world experience dealing with customers, dealing with situations in dealerships that we go through on a daily basis and try to train on. But Larry's been through it, so he can really empathize with the people and tell you what's worked for him and maybe what way not to go. Larry is just always at a 10. I mean, his energy level is always up there. And I think people, they just love that and they feed off of it. He's not faking it. He is genuinely excited to come in and help you. He's excited to come in and help grow your business. And he's one of those people who just really enjoys seeing dealers succeed and have a lot of fun at the same time.
Life is about connection, having a support system to lean on,
Hey, Todd.
and roads to endless possibility. At every turn, guiding the way, we are building the connections that move you.
So what would your dealership feel like if your entire sales staff was literally on fire, your sales and service staff? They were nonstop all over social media, completely dominating your marketplace. They could do it in 30 days or less and then continue their education to do it for an entire 6 months or a year. You literally would completely take over the entire marketplace and no one would be able to compete with you. And that's what we can do for you. So when you're walking around your community, whether you're at local restaurants or you're going to the gym, you don't want to be bothered? Fine, you won't be bothered. But a lot of people will walk up to you and say, oh my God, I love your social media. Your staff is amazing. We love what you're doing in the community. We want to come buy a car from you. We want to get an oil change at your dealership. Your community is absolutely going to love you. And it doesn't matter what platform you're on. You could be on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all social media platforms. You will literally be all over the place. And not only will you have ads running, but your own staff is going to be promoting your brand and promoting themselves within the dealership and within the business. So it's like running an ad times 100-fold because your entire staff is participating in the process. I've traveled all over North America. I've trained Toyota. I've trained Nissan. I've been to driving sales. I've been to Women in Auto. I get hired as a speaker for conferences at universities all over the country. And I can help change the trajectory of your dealership right now.
Good morning and welcome. I had to do a little bit of a changeover this morning because I didn't realize that I started the show at exactly the time that armistice was called in World War I in 1918. So it's 11/11/11, which actually is the same time the show is starting today. So if you missed it this morning, I did do a quick video from one of the most famous poets from the war that actually inspired the poppy in Canada and through the British Empire, Dr. McCrae, who's actually an interesting cat throughout history. But anyway, thanks to everybody who's served and those who've paid the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms that we enjoy. So without further ado, let's start with, obviously we have our regular Larry Feldman, and we also have Todd Smith on. I interviewed Todd. If you haven't listened to the extended interview, it's about an hour. I had trouble cutting it down. You definitely should. But since we're talking about attracting and retaining people, Todd, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about what you do and your history in the car business, because obviously you're not just a data guy.
Yeah, I feel you kind of fall into things. My background is all automotive. I grew up next to two big auto dealers. So I've been on mostly probably half and half at this point in my career, half retail, half on the vendor or tech side. So I've run stores and I was a partner and owned a Chevy store in North Jersey. But I definitely have a deep passion towards the technology side. Pioneered live chat for auto dealers with my previous company that I exited. And now we've been working on data. I feel like it's the one frontier that dealers need to get their arms around if they ever want to truly leverage AI. It'll all begin with their organization of data. And if they don't do that, they're never going to actually get the true benefits of it.
So when we're looking at the magic number of that sort of $500 to attract a customer that I know has been kicking around probably since as long as I've been in the car business, which is over 25 years. And we talk about retaining more customers and growing a business. You're obviously a car person, but more importantly, someone who really gets data and how to use that. How do you think dealers can retain and grow their business, maybe with the existing customers they have in 2024?
Yeah, look, and in the next year, I feel like there's so much value in the existing customer database that dealers a lot of times struggle with truly keeping them loyal to the dealership and engaged. And again, I think what we've seen through the past probably 20 some years since CRMs came out was we just send blanket waves of messaging out to our audience all the time at the dealership. And at some point, it kind of falls on deaf ears. We're conditioning our customers to ignore our messaging. And I think because of data and technology, we can actually pinpoint now with relative accuracy people who are truly in market. And I think if dealers just change their focus and messaging on really pinpointing to say, hey, I'm going to focus my outreach on the people that are my existing customers who are now showing the signs, the behavior that they're absolutely looking to purchase, it's a much easier story. And I can give you a very specific one. We did work for Auto Group. They gave us their data lake access, and they said they had about 1.6 million records. Well, we resolved that down to 600,000 real customers, like unique, living, breathing souls, because believe it or not, there was a percentage of people inside their data warehouse who had passed on.
Yeah.
And they were still marketing to. So super interesting. So out of 600,000, we recognized right under 10,000, 9,000, I think it was 874, were in market looking to buy a car. And we tested that. We told them, do not do anything with these customers. We just want to track it. We want to see how good the algorithm is working. So we waited 3 weeks, and out of the 9,874, 2,110 had already bought cars from the group. And to me, that's 21.5%, give or take. And I think, on average, dealers will probably get somewhere around 35% retention. And then the rest is going to go through to, it's going to another store. And I think that's such a great opportunity for dealers to kind of get ahead of that and try to move that needle by 10, 20% to be able to capture more of those customers, their existing customers who are in market. And especially with groups, because let's say maybe they bought a Toyota, but now they're interested, they're moving up the food chain, BMW, Mercedes, something like that. They may not even know the dealership group has those vehicles. So for us, we see it as a huge opportunity to help dealers just get ahead of their customers and engage them more effectively.
Thanks for that. And Larry, I know it's probably important to call the right people at the right time with the right messaging, but you're obviously in dealers all the time, finding staff and working with dealers. What do you think is the best way dealers can, attract and retain customers, especially as the market gets tighter and things get more competitive again?
Well, while I'm not as data-driven as Todd, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm sure he'll agree with me, and I certainly agree with him, that there's a huge amount of customers within the dealership's customer base that the dealership would rather ignore and complain that there's no business. Or where can I go outside and find strange leads that make no sense and have no attachment? But Todd, this is as old as Henry Ford was moaning about this, I'm sure, when he put up the first Ford dealership. Why aren't my guys in service every day? Why aren't we going through the orphan files? And the best way to retain and attract is to take great care of your customers. First of all, if you take great care of them and stay in touch with them, they'll stay loyal to you. They'll also refer people to you. And I don't care what algorithm you use or what advertising method you use, there's nothing like word of mouth. There's nothing like, man, you gotta go see this guy, Todd, he's great, took great care of me. So if we actually behave in a way where we want our customers to come back and they feel appreciated and they're having fun, it's actually easy. And we see examples of it all the time. People always talk about Nordstrom's or how Disney trains people. It's everywhere. You got chicken places that aren't open on Sunday, but when you walk in, it's everything thank you and please and it's my pleasure. You can call, if Todd and I called 10 dealerships, 5 we would say, boy, what a nice person that answered the phone. And the other 5 would say, couldn't they get somebody that just got released from a federal detention center? They got, what do you want? Or how about, Todd, how about when you beg not to be put on hold, they put you on hold anyway? You're just glad they're not running an ambulance service.
Oh yeah, yeah. There would be many dead people living around if you call dealerships and get their
but
phone free.
luckily, but even if they're dead, luckily you can remove them from the roll. So it was a reverse plug for Tom.
Yeah, there you go. So absolutely.
So what percentage, like on average, you've done a lot of stuff with dealers. I mean, what percentage are people that are no longer on the right side of the grass, as we like to say? Like, what's that percentage?
2%, 2 to 3.
Wow.
Inside their data.
So they're still marketing to people that can't respond.
Yeah, well, unless, you know.
Or not well.
To break out the Ouija board, or, you know, maybe they're.
No, wait a minute, Todd. Those people that have passed on at least can't give you a bad CSI.
That's a good point.
Any activists.
Yeah. So, you know, it's interesting. It's not just, I mean, obviously that's the extreme case, right?
Yeah.
But then there's other real issues, like just look at email addresses. Dealers like want to email all the time, yet 2.5% of your email addresses go bad per month. So mathematically, do that real quick. That's like over 30% of the customers in general, whether it's DMS or CRM, their email addresses are bad. So if you take that consideration, and now let's extrapolate that a little bit. So if you know that over the next year you haven't cleaned your data or kept your data clean, 30% of your email addresses are bad. So now it's mid-month, your dealership is demanding more sales, and like, where are our sales for the month?
Yeah.
What's going to happen is you go into the CRM and go, okay, I'm going to do an email blast. I'm going to create, I don't care what creative you create.
Right.
Now you're going to send it out. And the problem is, as soon as those bad addresses start hitting the ISPs, the internet service providers, they throttle your deliverability. So at only 10% bounce rate, your deliverability is throttled to less than 40%. So if you say I was sending out 10,000 emails today, and you have bad data, sub 4,000 are getting delivered, and it's probably less than that. It's probably in the 2 or 2,500 range that actually may get delivered. And because of that, you are now looking at, we sent 10,000 and I got 6 people responded. But the reality is you sent 10,000, but it only reached 2,000 people. And yeah, that's in alignment. And it's crazy that we keep doing these things and we expect different results. But the real reality is data should be at the center of any real activity you want to do. And you need to treat your data as your most valuable asset. And I think many think of it as a secondary thing. And it's unfortunate because it resonates through any marketing you're going to do.
So 2% per month? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
2% per month?
Yeah, it's actually, over. It's 2.5% per month deterioration rate of emails in any system.
Wow.
Hence why, that has to be cleaned monthly. You also have loss of address, like change of address, right? People change cars, people have families, and they want to change. And you have many different indicators in the data that are like pinpoints to say, this customer has a higher propensity to buy than this one.
Right.
Hey, Todd, I'm a fan and proponent of what you're talking about. And it's funny coming from me because I'm so old school. If you hung with me for a day, you'd lose your mind. Like when I go to dealers, I don't type into the computer candidates. I print their name, their phone number, their email, and I ask them twice and repeat it back to them. So I make, thank goodness, very few mistakes. But astonishingly enough, because of iPhones and Samsungs and Googles, I believe they've made most of the society as stupid as they can physically possibly be. We don't know how to add and subtract. We don't know how to spell. And if you look enough at Google, we don't know how to think because we just take every piece of misinformation, right? Like, you mean Elvis didn't just have a baby with Britney Spears and said it in the newspaper? It can't be wrong. It was online. I jumped off the call for a second to take a call. Very nice person. But when I said which job, I'm with about 200 dealers, Todd. If you know anybody that needs any kind of personnel, whether it's tech, salespeople, I'm your guy you want to call. Plus, I'm more entertaining. And of course, when I said, which job are you calling on? They said, let me pull it back up. Well, the reason they said, let me pull it back up is our society has made us stupid. We don't know how to use a pencil or a pen. We don't know how to write anything down. We type everything into our damn phone along with the other 12,000 spam emails. And this is why people miss appointments, miss interviews, and are generally stupid. And I mean stupid, Todd, in the most loving, nurturing way.
Like
So
the
the
rap
point is-
scary way. You're
Yeah,
stupid.
yeah. Well, they took my electric cattle prod away, so I'm kind of limited with my tools. But the bottom line is, if the people around us don't understand how important it is to write things down, or to pay any kind of attention, then the dealer has to be data driven and has to have the correct data because they can't count on the people working for them. And I'm not knocking on the people working for them. Okay, I was successful even though I had managers that I wanted to strangle every day, which is why I never buy the excuse I had a bad manager. Plenty of people, myself included, make a lot of money, even if your managers are bad or incompetent or difficult. The point is, it's your life and it's your business running within someone else's business with no debt service, right? You're an entrepreneur, I am, but the salespeople, the people that work at a dealership have the greatest gig of all time. They're partners with a millionaire, and they'll never ask them to pay the light bill or the floor plan. But if data is going to always be a problem with individuals, okay, then obviously, some way, shape, or form, the data has to be as clean as possible. Because, no disrespect, they're even going to fumble the clean and proper data. Imagine what the hell they're going to do with the data that is incomplete.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that whole idea of like, I don't know if you've ever like learned to fly or flown a plane or understand the mechanics that like as you're going 1 degree off is like 93 feet per like nautical mile, right? And so if you're off 1 degree, you could overshoot a runway by 8 miles. And it's crazy when you think of it like that. And it's just like we're letting bad data into the CRM, DMS. Don't you think it's going to give you really bad outcomes? It's going to give you bad reporting, or what I consider biased reporting, because people generate reports to keep their job and to say, oh, look, our leads conversion rate is down, but this is happening. And because, well, I'm going to cancel those leads. They're not good. They didn't respond, so I don't count them. And you curate data to tell the story you want. And this
hold on, Todd. Ian is a little mathematically challenged. What he's explaining to you, Ian, is in math, one of the laws is what you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other, or the equation collapses. And if your data is bad, then everything you base your damn data on is also going to be bad. I have to he's Canadian, Todd. I have to translate all the time. I'm still grappling with the metric files and stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to go into the kilometer and metric format, but then my quick math, I was like, yeah, I'm going to fail at that really bad. So.
But no. He's got the edge over us because when he drives here and the cops pull him over and he said, 85? I thought it was 55. I'm from Canada. Hold on, hockey stick. He avoids all stickers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they couldn't get that straight when I was growing up. It was imperial and then metric. Then I moved to the U.S. and I had real and imperial. Yeah, it's totally different. Anyway, it's all good.
So look, at the end of the day, I think dealers and the CRM or DMS, they're not doing nothing to stop the influx of bad data. Good example was with a group, and I looked. They had 287 Luke Skywalkers. Why is Luke Skywalker in the data 287 times? It's because the service advisor didn't know the customer's name. And he just
No, Todd. It's because the service manager wasn't Darth Vader. He needed to raise his lightsaber and smack somebody in the head.
But it's crazy because when we allow bad data in the front door.
Hold on. You just said the magic word. What we allow, what we tolerate. I'm in a unique position. I owned a dealership. I was a successful salesman, and now, thank God, I'm a successful vendor. So I've seen all the lines. But with salespeople, like children, no disrespect, they need to be guided. They need to have structure. They have to understand this is what expected. This is what you can expect if you do it right. But like everything else on earth, if you're not monitoring it, if you're not measuring it, you're dead.
Yeah, it won't work. Yeah.
So to speak about that a little bit, we talk about this $500 number, and I know we've been talking about it forever. And I remember working for Nissan back in the day, and I was privy to what Nissan was spending nationally in the Canadian market to actually attract customers. And then I'd go to the dealer, like, oh, it's $500. And I'm like, okay, so where does that math come from? That there's no way 25 years ago or 50 years ago it was $500, and now it's still $500. So when I look at that attraction metric versus the digging in the data metric, obviously you have to clean it because we know Luke Skywalker and Jeff Smith and whoever else was a phantom because salesmen figure out how to work the system. When you clean that data and you look at the cost to resurrect or to resell that customer, whether it be sales or service. I mean, what do you think there, Todd? Like, what do you think the real savings is? And what do you think the real math is?
Well, let's break it down into a real one, right? So
yeah.
I'm going to give you like a real world today.
Yeah.
Those dealers, let's say I want to target people who visited my website in Google or Facebook.
Okay.
So what do? We go in and buy an audience in Facebook or Google, right? And Google's model says, oh, these are probably the people that you're looking for. We don't know, but here's 20,000 of them.
Yep.
And Google starts showing all these people ads, right? And then your cash register is going ching, 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 ching every time. These random people are clicking and misclicking, and you have no idea. And you chew up your budget by the 19th of the month, and then you're either putting more into it, otherwise you become completely ghosted on the internet at the worst time of the month when you're trying to close strong. Your visibility is shrunk because right now the only visibility on the internet for car dealers is paid, because all the big companies like the True Cars, the Cars, they own the organic at this point. Car dealers own very little of their organic presence. So you're not going to show up. So you're paying to play. So if you think of that, that's the typical model. And it's very costly to generate a lead and to have that outcome. Now, if you take it the other way, if you use data and I identify, let's say 40 to 50% of my website visitors, which we can do today, and now I load that up into Facebook or Google, and I only retarget the people who already have touched my site, and I put them in a cycle with different types of offers or incentives to take action. My cost shrinks dramatically down to pennies compared to dollars because I'm targeting actually known individuals. I'm not just randomly targeting people that a different company is thinking I should target. I'm targeting real people. So I think that's the first step. And then, as we talked about earlier, dealers spend a tremendous amount, and based on NADA, up to $750 per vehicle retail. But let's just say more dealers say it's 300, 400, depends what 20 group you go to. All of it, again, is curated. Oh, we don't count that spend. Oh, I don't count that because it's co-op from the OEM. I don't count that. But let's just say it's 500 at your number, cost per customer acquired. It's because dealers still spend a huge amount of time shotgunning audiences and hope it covers their buyers versus using data to actually ID their buyers. Because look, there was always the joke, and maybe Larry and you guys would love it. We've all heard this. You call up any car dealer in the world and say, how many people are in your DMS? And you're going to get a number. Let's just say for our number, it's 10,000. Okay, you have 10,000 people in your, yep, 10,000. I just cleaned the data, Ian. I have 10,000 people. Okay, cool. How many of those are in market? 95% of dealers will go, I have no idea. 5% of dealers will go, they've heard some statistic that says 3% of my audience is in market. So they're going to go 3%. Well, the next simple question is, well, which 3%? And data can tell you that now. And to me, that's far more valuable. I don't need to market to everybody with blanket messaging. I can market to very specific people and reduce my spend. So taking much more of what I consider the sharpshooter approach than the shotgun approach. And the problem is data has been there for a while. We've just never used it correctly, or we've just never really, to me, done what's possible with it.
Interesting. So if you're using that shotgun approach versus, say, the sniper approach, what's the real world savings? Like, what can a dealer really save doing that? If you're looking at, say, that NADA 750 number. So I know we're curating that.
I feel like if you can't cut 50% of your marketing spend, you're doing a bad job.
So let's just say it's that dealer that's spending 50,000 is the number I hear a lot, average for, let's just say it's 10,000 unique visitors. Let's just say that's what the math is. It's probably something like that. So if they get strategic on, capturing more of those people that, retargeting those people that actually visited the website after they spent that 50 grand, I know we're looking at numbers of, say, 3 to 5% seems to be the average conversion these days, maybe a little higher. What do you think the realistic uptick there is?
Well, I look at it a couple different ways. One, we have confirmation bias that dealers don't want to spend less.
Yeah.
Because the fear it doesn't work or I'm going to miss deals.
Right.
So I think we look at two things here. One, it's my marketing to my existing customers, my service customers, old sales customers, old leads that never panned out 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Could be recycled. Yeah. into because they could be back in market. So if you're finding those, there's that side. And then there's true conquest, right? So conquest is always going to be a little bit more expensive because first I have to build some type of affinity with that customer, meaning I have to have some type of carrot that's interesting enough for them to engage. And a lot of times, what is that carrot? It's the inventory. So for me, I look at for conquest marketing, it's really designed around inventory, making sure my inventory is being seen by the most amount of my customers possible, and exposing it, which again, you can control it. And it doesn't have to be just, hey, we're going to hit everybody in the whole market, because believe it or not, there's still also data out there that's showing automotive marketing intent. They're visiting the cars.com. They're visiting Car Gurus. They're visiting these sites. They're showing auto intent. They're getting pre-qualified from their bank. All those are indicators, right? So again, you can buy that type of data in marketplace for conquest. And then you look the other side when you're looking at your existing customers. Now you're looking at their behavior. So it's interesting to start looking back in time where it's like, hey, this customer buys every 3 years. This one buys sporadically.
Right.
They may own a car, pay it off in 3 years, buy it 5 years.
Right.
And the best thing I love about where we live today with AI, it's amazing at pattern matching, or what's called random forest. So it can see through the data where we just couldn't before. Yeah. To see the patterns, to emerge and go, this guy's most likely, this is this person's window. And I don't need to know you're going to buy to the day. I just need, to me, it's the closest to the pin. If I just know, hey, these are the real in market ones, I want a different message going to them than I want these conquest ones that, hey, I'm trying to buy visibility. So it's like, here's the cars, pricing is right, here's reviews about why do business with us. But even that doesn't matter until we're sold on the car, right?
Right.
To me, cars first for conquest. Now, for an existing customer, it's still doing business with us, right? Or doing business with the store. And it's bringing back the good feeling that they bought from us once. They want to buy again from us. And our goal is, I think, always looking at it, hey, how to help the dealer or how to help the customer just do what they're already trying to do, which is buy a car.
So when you're looking at data, I know Larry's en route. I don't know if he's still there. He's en route to a dentist. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. He had some debt. Huh? Go ahead, Larry.
It's Veterans Day.
Yeah.
And you could argue greatest veteran in the history of the United States is George Washington. And when he was really sick, they thought the cure for him would be to bleed him. So instead of helping him, they hastened his death. And the problem is, more and more, it's clear that dealers don't know what it is that they're supposed to do. So if they don't know what it is they're supposed to do, there's no way for them to do it and get the job done, which is really kind of scary. If you look at how much more effective and how much more the close rate is on repeat referral, if you realize how much stronger chance you have, as we talked earlier, with orphan files, they're working through service, you can see where a lot of our focus needs to be, and how much easier this whole situation would be. But we just, for some odd reason, refuse to do what we're supposed to do when we're supposed to do it. And as my buddy Todd quoted Einstein earlier, you can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. That's the definition of insanity.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So when you talk about maybe the shotgun approach, or just market to everybody, or send the offer to everybody, and I use this as I saw last week that a bunch of OEMs are laying off staff, and I thought that was unfortunate. But at the same time, I mean, I used to, years ago, I still get emails from dealers. I haven't owned that car for years. But in addition to that, I get marketing that doesn't make sense. And I did have a show a couple weeks ago about recalls. And the stat that stuck in my mind that was crazy was the average manufacturer actually fixes less than 30% of the vehicles that have an open recall. And wait
a minute. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I owe it to Todd, who is the data king, that if you're going to talk about how marketing doesn't make sense, let us remind our Democratic friends that Kamala Harris spent $1 billion
over
an election.
Well, the right marketing makes sense.
And she's still 20 million in debt. So
yeah, the right marketing makes sense. So when you look at that, and that's a great point, Larry. I hear she's calling back some money she paid out to try and make the books match. But when you look at it, and you look at, let's just say you had that number of 10,000 we talked about, and let's just say there's 2% that are in market. If your team, who maybe can't focus on the 10,000 because you don't have enough of them, focused on just that 2% with a message that was not only customized to their needs, create a great experience, and drove engagement, what's the realistic result there? And in your opinion, as you've done this with dealers, like what's the upside for them?
So meaning just by focusing.
Yeah, focus. Strategic. Yeah.
Without giving any proprietary stuff away,
of course
I've definitely seen double-digit increases in sales efficiency. And I've seen it from different angles. I've seen it from like inbound lead ingestion, and by prioritizing inbound leads and messaging focus, by understanding the consumer at the other end of, what I call a morsel of data, right? Like you don't get the whole understanding of a customer. So you need to take in the lead data and then enhance it. You go, okay, this guy, are they in market, sort of in market? Are they accelerating, or are they they're still a very high funnel piece of their purchase experience? And data can tell you this. So I feel with dealers who are now focusing more on prioritization, to me, it's like a triage, right?
Yeah.
Like focus on the people who are critical. And everybody needs treatment, but in an order.
Yeah.
And I think that's a change, right, for many dealers, because many dealers send the same messaging across everybody.
Yeah.
And they attack everyone with the same viver, right?
Yeah.
The same thing, and yet a lot falls on deaf ears. So by focusing, definitely see a massive pickup in conversion. And and it's weird because people are like, wow, But the reality is, like, you're talking to the right people. That's the goal. You don't need to talk to everybody all the time. You just need to talk to the right people at the right time.
100%.
And I also see the same with, as I said, I gave you a real world activation for a group, knowing that 20% of people had already bought within 3 weeks. So from a model perspective, that's pretty darn accurate, right? And it's only going to get more accurate, I think we're at a month. I'll go back and look at the data. My gut will tell me that they're going to top somewhere in the 30 to 35%. The rest I'm going to see in another month or a couple more weeks have now bought outside of their group. And now think about this. Put this in your head for a real hard minute. Do you think this group didn't market to those people? I'm sure they did, because they blanket market. Do you think this group potentially had cars that matched what they bought from somewhere else? Probably high probability.
Yeah.
So then the question is, what happened? And I think there's a thing where we sell cars and we don't value the relationship anymore. And it comes back to haunt us when the customer comes back in the market, because there's no affinity towards you anymore. Because salespeople are not paid more to sell you a second car. They're not paid to keep a relationship intact with you. And what the dealership is doing is just generically communicating with that customer.
Hey, Todd, I hate to interrupt you because you're making a ton of sense. They actually are paid, because statistics have always shown you tend to make more on people the second time around than the first time. Once again, it's the fact that we're not informing our salespeople. We're not explaining to them that these people aren't annoyances, they're annuities, and how value each deal is and how each deal opens the door to many other deals.
Totally agree. I feel like I remember this lady I sold, Mrs. McCook. Because of her, Larry, I sold 17 cars through her and her network. She would literally bring people in on Sunday after church, sit down, and be like, Todd, I'll give you a great deal. I would go through one pencil. I mean,
so all the data in the world, Todd, and again, I know what you do it brilliantly. All the data in the world isn't worth a repeat, a referral, somebody that swears by you. So imagine what happens if we combine personality and organization with the proper data. It's frightening what kind of numbers we could produce.
Yeah. And I think you're matching the point, right? Right pay plan, right structure, right training, right, like, hey, this is how you build that annuity. I heard you say it. I mean, salespeople should look at this like an insurance business and reap long-term value of all these people that they touch. I had a giant Rolodex, right? Because I started selling cars before computers.
Yeah.
And I had my big Rolodex, and it got too big, so I had to go to like a file index, index where
cards.
I had everyone's information, and I knew, and I would mark them and then call them because I didn't have a CRM. And I look at that. That's how you build a business. And
you heard him. But listen, we got it out of him. It took us 40 some minutes. He said the word Rolodex. I'm betting if we get him drunk, Ian, we can make him show us his abacus and his sundial.
Yes. Hey, I will give you the funniest thing. When I was in Tokyo, I mean, you say Tokyo is probably one of the most advanced, like, technological cities on the planet. And this is years ago. And I was there, and I went to get on the train, and the lady used an abacus to give me my change.
I love it.
I was
we want to move to the new school, Todd, but we don't want to neglect the old school, because when we get away from the basics of organizing things and smiling at people and tying it in, we can definitely lose some things in the translation.
Oh yeah, I mean,
listen, I'm gonna go full Larry on everyone, where I say that technology should support the dealers and the salespeople's process. If you are dependent on the technology to replace the salesperson's process, you will fail every single time.
Yeah.
Technology does not make bad process good. It makes bad process worse. And I think you need really good operational processes and then leverage the technology and data to accelerate success. I think if you
Todd, why don't we go into partnership?
Yeah.
Todd, we should go into partners.
If you try to solve like business problems with tech, you are doomed.
Yeah, I mean,
we should go into partners. You can wire everything up perfectly, and then I can tell some jokes. It'll be the perfect 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I mean, I've been reading a magazine from Harvard Business Review recently on how to thrive in Gen AI. If you haven't checked it out, I don't get money from it, but it's worth getting anyway. But what was interesting as I read through the data, and there's a lot of data in it from a lot of different industries, it was really like you should look at AI as a sidecar, as an assistant, as someone who helps you. But to your point, if you got bad processes and you can't speak English or write properly or don't understand basic principles, you got a little bit of a problem. And it was interesting that you brought up Japan, because I went to Japan in 2019 and China on the same trip. But I watched on the weekend a quick video on one of the last Japanese soldiers who was fighting in World War II and didn't believe the war was over. And they dropped pamphlet after pamphlet and tried to hunt the guy down. Eventually, they had to bring his former leader out, who was retired, to convince him he had to quit, because he just refused to quit.
Grandson is now handling the email for most dealerships.
Yeah, probably. So, well, think about this. I mean, has email changed since CRMs first came out?
More addressers, but not really. Yeah. Well, a little bit more interactive.
They've grown so they've multiplied so much that they've made it all less effective, because no matter how attentive you are, you get worn out with how many emails you get.
Oh, or text, emails, and it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like if we shop 20 stores, it's the same. If we shop 100, it's the same. And believe it or not, the more you shop, I did the thing during the pandemic. I shopped 100 dealerships. It was brain dead nightmare, but I was bored. So I built a huge Excel spreadsheet. I mapped all their emails. It was crazy. I was like, now I want to go back to the data and run it through AI, because I bet you there's a 98% similarity. We're the largest volume store. We give great this. We're that. And they say the same thing over and over again. And the problem is, you're telling me what you are, not what you do for me.
Right.
100%.
That's the biggest thing. Like, it should be more like, hey, welcome. What brought you in today? How can I help you? What are you trying to accomplish? Like, it shouldn't be like, when are you coming in? That's a me thing. And the thing is, I think we're ineffectively training people, and it turns people off, because we're not trying to help them. We're trying to help ourselves. And it's transparent how salespeople are just trying to sell you. And I think it ruins the experience. And I think that's one of the things. Yeah.
Now you got to go back 2,000 years to track the more effective use, because it was Jesus that invented servant management. He washed the feet of the disciples. If managers nurtured their salespeople, the salespeople would nurture the customers, and then customers would nurture other customers and tell them about us.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest, Larry. I've been in many stores. There are great operators, and then there are many operators as well who treat their salespeople like mushrooms. They're only kept in the park, and they're kept to do tasks, and that is it. And I see it every day. And I was like, and I know instantly how a store runs if I walk in. And are the salespeople mushrooms, or are they empowered? And you see a massively different dealership performance because of it. So
that's a great point. So you look at retention, you look at real profit. We know Steve Greenfeld's book, when he was talking about how we're going to go back to where we were pre-pandemic, which has proven to be true, and probably less profit moving forward, but whatever, on average. And everyone was like, "You're crazy. We figured this out. It's magic." Back in the day, a couple of years ago. What do you think the 3 top things that a dealer should actually pay attention to? I mean, I know we don't want mushrooms. We obviously want other things. But, what should the things?
Hallucinogenic mushrooms that a whole generation seems to love. So, there's some benefits to these mushrooms.
Yeah, like Aaron Rodgers. Look how good that's working out for the New York Jets.
Exactly. I don't know. Like, okay, you three things dealers should pay attention to. My perspective, well, actually, first, Larry, what are your three? Like, what would be? You're the operator, so what would come from your side?
The late great Zig Ziglar said, "Training is like bathing. I recommend it every day because it doesn't last." That doesn't mean a 2-hour session where the people would rather die than listen to you talk anymore. Okay, it's got to be something interesting. It's got to be fresh. It's got to be one-on-one as well as group meetings. Hey, can I see you for a second, Ian? Man, you're doing fabulous. Anything I can do to help you? Ian, you seem to be dropping off a little bit, and I think you're amazing. Why are you always hollering at me? Because I think you're amazing.
Yeah.
I think training that actually makes sense. I think I always hear these nonsense terms. They're not nonsense, but the way they're employed and followed through. Our vision and our culture. Well, what the hell is your vision and culture, and how well do you embrace it? Because a lot of times, if you listen to somebody talk for half an hour, they completely contradict what they said their vision and culture were. Todd, I tell this story all the time. I'm boring Ian, but hopefully you'll get it. I'm at the dealership that I wound up owning. The GM is leaving. I had just started there, and the operator said, "Boss, you have a call," and he said, "Tell him I left." And I thought, are you a moron? If the guy's got a small problem and you solve it, you're a hero. If you let it fester overnight, he wants to kill you. What if the guy wants to buy 2 cars? You don't pick up the phone, he buys them somewhere else. So we really have to figure out what is our culture and our vision, and then not just figure it, but actually implement it. We need to train these people, okay? And most important, we need to realize, I'm stealing the Sam Walmart line, the most important person isn't the owner or the GM, it's the customer. And we have lost that focus.
Yep. And listen, you just modernize that, Larry, and you can say Jeff Bezos, because he's the exact same. It was always customer first. Nothing else mattered. So
Yeah.
Well, and to your point, the Washington Post, which he owns, can't stand conspirators. They can't stand Donald Trump, but they decided not to endorse anybody. They always endorse Democrats because Jeff Bezos, even though he's a billionaire on top of a billionaire, he still didn't want to endanger possible government tie-ins and contracts if Trump got in. So even a billionaire is smart enough to realize how important each customer is, and yet salespeople making $50,000 aren't smart enough. That's why it's so important to make them understand what's going on.
So I'm going to go with training from your side, like dead training, like train, retrain after the coffee break, train some more, keep training, train it into second nature that it just happens. And I mean, look, even if you take special forces, these guys do nothing but train. And even when they're resting, they're training, because that's how it becomes muscle memory. So when they're in the real world, they don't have to think. And I always viewed, who was it?
They react, right.
Yeah, who was the football coach that did it with Tampa Bay, but then he got fired before it actually was fulfilled. Yet the next year, Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl because they said, we're going to run these 5 plays and we're going to run them to perfection. And there's
wait a minute. Go back 20 years. You hit on something beautiful. The greatest coach of all time is not Bill Belichick. I knew he would fall down when Brady left. It's Lombardi. Everybody knew Lombardi was going to run Lombardi sweep to the right side. The guy won 5 out of 6 championships he was involved in. Everybody knew the plays he was going to run, but everybody hit their blocks. That's why you always hear the expression blocking and tackling. Because if you do what you're supposed to do consistently, amazing things can happen. A disciplined team can beat a more talented team. We see it all the time.
Absolutely. So I saw my Eagles just whip the Cowboys. I got it. So
you and Ian could have beat the Cowboys. You're in bad shape. Okay. Their quarterbacks out. And of course, I don't know if you know it, Ian, Todd from New Jersey. He does not break for people wearing cowboy jerseys. Very sad.
Yeah, I will not. So I will run over the cowgirl jersey anytime. So not a problem. That's why I got my Eagles damn fit doll right over here. So ready to knock some heads. So And I think, honestly, Ian, from my side, I would look at, obviously, I totally agree with Larry. I feel like from an operation sense, training, retraining only gets you constantly to the next level. And dealers a lot of times are very inconsistent with training. Best stores do it more than others, but I mean, I don't even think we've seen the peak possibility of a dealership that is driven solely by a training apparatus. And from my side, again, I look at technology and I go, dealers have way too much tech. They underutilize it. They think tech's going to fix problems that Larry should be fixing in training, and it doesn't work like that. But I feel that if any dealer listening today is going to have ambition that they want to be able to leverage AI in the future to optimize their dealership, it begins with data and curating and owning all the data. And if their data is stuck and siloed across 10 or 20 different systems, they'll never get the scalability of what AI does, ever. And they will be beat. And the thing is, AI is one of those things that it is moving so fast. You're reading in Harvard's their Gen AI, which I've read it, and it's already, pieces of it are outdated.
Yeah.
And it just kind of came out because you're seeing an industry moving at something that humans, we're terrible at understanding, and that's exponential change. We're very good at linear change. We understand if I take 30 linear steps, I'm across my house. If I take 30 exponential steps, people are like, where are you? Down the block. You're half a mile away. I'm like, no, I'm literally pulling into the moon. I'm over 200,000 miles away. And I think it's very hard for us to understand we're entering this time where this exponential technology is changing so rapidly. And it's going to affect so many pieces of our business, every business, whether it's car dealership business, vendor business, it's going to dramatically shift things. And I think dealers, to get ahead of it, the thing that drives it, the gasoline, is data.
Yep.
So dealers need to get a point where they own their data, they're controlling their data, and then they're letting these tools grow off their data. And I said that will be the most effective dealership in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at dealers, and to your point, they complain about stuff, not to say that that's right or wrong, but when you're looking at AI, and I finished this magazine a while ago, but I agree with you, when I look at tools that are out there today, and I look at the potential, if you had that McDonald's process, not to say that's perfect, but if you had that Subway process, if you had that down to a science where people aren't thinking, they just do, and then you add that supercharged AI piece to be doing the right things every single time, you're going to dominate that marketplace and drive profit, retention, revenue. But more importantly, you're going to drive it with the right people at the right time. And we all know that people prefer that customized experience and a message that actually is tailored to them versus those calls you get or emails you get to go, it'd be nice if you came in and gave us money. Okay, but that's not relevant. It's just not relevant at this time.
Yeah, and look, you're going to see the emergence of three things. Right? It's very clear. The first things that we touched on are co-pilots.
Yeah.
So there's tooling now being built that is going to help the salespeople that Larry's training. It's going to help them do what they're already trying to do, keep up with customers, don't forget things, like Larry said. Like, it's going to work in tandem with the salesperson as a true co-pilot. It's a navigator. Then we're going to see a next version where you're going to see what's called agentic agents, autonomous agents. Now, what they're going to start doing is replacing some tasks that maybe the salesperson was doing. And you see glimpses of it today where it's like, oh, the bot reached out and tried to have a conversation with a past customer or past lead. You're going to ultimately, in the phase 2 of this, you're going to see these agentic agents start to knock out functional tasks in a series, because look, selling a car is a series of steps. There's a lot of steps. It's a lot of critical thinking points across the way. And you're going to see the agents start taking little pieces of that process away, which should speed things up. And then what you're going to see, the last phase, is you're going to see these agents start actually replacing humans in roles that become just unnecessary. And this is an easy flow over the next 5 years to understand, and where you can leverage technology in your daily work life to just go faster, more efficiently, get better results, and then again, speed it all up. And now you're just replacing things. Like a lot of times we only focus on the dead outcome of like, wow, you can replace 10% of your staff. For an average dealer, that's like $600K in bottom line revenue. But to get there, we have to first have these co-pilots working in tandem with people, and then start replacing people's pieces of the process. And then we'll get to phase 3. So
Understood. Thanks
yeah,
for the time
it's been great
today. It was really, really good conversation. And Larry, I hope your dentist takes care of you even without the AI. And have yourself a great Memorial Day, or what is it? Remembrance Day here, Memorial Day, Veterans Day in the US. And make sure you thank somebody who made a difference in your life, whether they're old or young. Have yourself a great day. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.